welcome to Pause for Payments with Kristy. I'm Kristy Duncan. It is my tremendous pleasure to have a discussion today with Lillian Wang, head of visa in Myanmar. Welcome, Lillian.
Thanks, Kristy. It's great to be here, and it's great to see you again.
Thank you. Well, this is going to be so fun. I'm looking forward to this. You've got a real adventure happening here in Myanmar. Can you share a little bit of your career journey and how you came to head up the visa team in Myanmar?
Sure. So I have been in this role in Myanmar for a little over a year now. I've been with Visa for 5 years. So prior to this role, I was with Visa Consulting and Analytics based in Singapore. I was looking after a few markets in Southeast Asia, specifically Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Myanmar. So we worked with several clients across these markets, and I had several deep engagements with our clients, including a few in Myanmar. But before I get into that journey, prior to that, I was 17 years with Citibank, and I worked across several markets in Asia Pacific, EMEA, and the United States. So my journey from there to Myanmar is really when I was in the Visa Consulting and Analytics. I did have deep engagements and long-term engagements with a few of our Myanmar clients. So I became very familiar with the payments landscape in Myanmar, the financial services landscape in Myanmar, as well as the huge opportunity here that only a frontier market these days can offer. So when this role opened, I was really excited. I was really excited to lead our business in Myanmar. There's so much opportunity. Besides the lovely people, the rich culture, Myanmar just has a phenomenal track record, I would say, in adopting new technology. It's been a fabulous journey.
Wow, that's so exciting. I'm intrigued to know what the payments market is like there and what the opportunities are and how you're addressing those. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Certainly, Kristy. It's been so the payments landscape. It's interesting. 0.5% of the PCE, the personal consumption expenditure, is in electronic payments. The rest is cash. So it's an extremely cash-based society. And so in terms of opportunity, it lends itself to a very large opportunity. But that's changing very, very quickly. The cash-based society is changing very quickly. Electronic payments is accelerating rapidly. And if I just take a step back and take a look at the perspective of Myanmar, in less than a decade, Myanmar emerged from isolation to being one of the most prominent emerging countries in Southeast Asia. And it's largely due to its rich natural resources, young population, series of economic liberalization policies, and as well as a rapidly growing middle class. And if I just take two data points there, on the young population, the average age in Myanmar is 27 years old. So yes, exactly. This young population, these are the early adopters, the quick adopters, the change agents into new technologies, for new technologies. If I take the second ingredient or another data point, Myanmar has over 90% mobile phone penetration. Over 90%. So just the combination of the two really lends itself to the acceleration into the digital age, into innovation, into adopting new technologies. So that 0.5% of electronic payment that's going to change. That's going to change rapidly.
Wow. So interesting. And the Myanmar people, how receptive are they to digital payments?
That's an interesting and good question, Kristy. We were wondering the same actually when we opened our office here. We were wondering the same thing, and since 2017, we have established, or we're conducting, I should say, a survey that we call VCPA, which is Visa's Consumer Payments Attitudes Survey, and we conduct it every year. And really what we're trying to find out there are the consumers' attitudes, their behaviors, their perception of payments and new payment methods. And really what ultimately it feeds into our effort in driving the country into a digital economy. But it's really interesting. So we conduct this every year, and you can see the shift in consumer attitude and their receptiveness. So if I could just say, compare last year to this year, just a couple of examples, 26% of the participants have used cards this year, as opposed to 3% last year. Yeah, it's changing very quickly. And 7 out of 10 participants say that they have the intent on getting a card or using a card this year, as opposed to 2 out of 10 last year. And what's interesting too as well is that 1 out of 4 participants this year have tried to go cashless. So they did not carry cash. They've tried to go cashless. And all the participants that were surveyed said they believe that Myanmar can become a cashless society within 15 years. So it's their view of the future is indicates, that they're very, very receptive to new form factors, to digital payments.
Wow, that's so interesting. So that really gives you an opportunity. I mean, talk about a frontier market. There's huge potential there. Remind us, what's the population? How big is that population?
It's a little under 57 million people. It's sizable.
So that's a huge opportunity for anybody going in to do things. And I imagine that it's one of these situations where you can actually leapfrog because you're starting from such a very basic phase. You can actually leapfrog into the next the wave of digital services without going through all the things that some of the other markets have had to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because when we looked at the digital acceleration happening in Myanmar, I guess my view on that is it's not so much a competition for us or a race for us to get into digital form factors. Really, the speed of adoption of different digital form factors, the speed of adoption is directly correlated with how aligned the product or the payment method is to the consumer's lifestyle. So going back to the 90% smartphone penetration, it's very likely, in the young population, it's very likely that Myanmar will go through the cards, as in plastic, to virtual cards, to mobile payment stage very quickly. So that whole product life stage will likely be compressed and they will get into the whole mobile payment spectrum very quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, no kidding. It's fascinating. So, what surprised you the most when you first started in Myanmar?
I would say there are a few things that surprise me. One is the queries, the curiosity, and that the population had in terms of different payment methods, different digital form factors. So we get a lot of questions on our we get about 2,000 queries per month on our social media, and what really surprised me is we get a lot of questions on product and on and on form factors such as virtual cards. Do you issue virtual cards? Do you issue on contactless payments? And it's just it's so interesting that I guess the younger population has just picked it up so quickly. So I was used to more the life cycle and the speed in which the traditional developed markets have gone through. So, I expected more queries on plastics, on the traditional card products, but no, they went straight to virtual cards and contactless and
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, I guess that makes it easier and perhaps less risky than having the physical cards. And how's it been in launching products? Obviously, Visa's got this two-sided market where you've got to get the card base out into the market with the consumers and the cardholders, but also the acceptance and building the infrastructure through the merchant to accept it. How's it been on that side?
It's had its challenges. So getting the cards out, the issuing side has been a big opportunity. So that's been quite smooth. I think the challenge is more on the acceptance side. One of the things is merchant acceptance has increased significantly, but one of the things that we fight here a lot in this market is basically this sounds, it's merchant education. It's how to use the terminals, and so that's one of the challenges, and because there's such high turnover as well, that we're training almost every month. We're sending, or every other month we're sending our agents out to train on how to use the terminals. But the good news in that is it's not just how to use the terminals, but also how to how to accept contactless payments. So it is, again, a kind of a leapfrog, to the more advanced stages. But yes, I think a lot of the challenges, I think, is more in terms of education.
On the part of the merchants as well as the consumers, cardholders.
It is as well on the part of the cardholders as well, because going back to that survey that I mentioned, it was about around 52%, I believe, of the participants said that they had they're slightly knowledgeable, I believe was their phrase, slightly knowledgeable on the financial products and services. So that really, the onus is on us to really work with the other stakeholders, the financial institutions, the merchants, the businesses, the governments, to really help the consumer understand how to make the most of their financial products, their services, the benefits of going cashless. So that's the education piece on the consumer side is also an area that we really need to focus on.
So interesting. Tell me, in general, in Myanmar, how is the acceptance of digital products and services overall? Are they uh, leapfrogging as you are in the payments industry, or are they still, um, back in the last century in terms of being able to do e-commerce, ordering online, or transacting digitally otherwise?
It's actually I wouldn't say it's leapfrogged, but it's accelerating faster. And so, in terms of being able to do e-com transactions, in terms of acceptance as well, it's not quite leapfrogging, but it's accelerated. So there's very innovative ways that Myanmar is looking at in terms of acceptance. For example, looking at acceptance on your phone, so somebody can just do a tap to phone, so it is kind of going through the life cycle, I should say, or life stage very quickly from the traditional POS terminal, and
And what about things like online and mobile banking and open banking? Are those things that are starting to be adopted there?
mobile banking is very, very quickly. So there are a lot of mobile wallets that are being developed. It's that's going it that's going to be really, when we look across the PCE and the product suite, the mobile wallets are going to be a very, very large factor in terms of share.
So interesting. I was listening to a webinar this morning talking about the payments industry in the last couple of months around the world, and I believe someone from Asia was saying that the innovation in the payments industry since the COVID-19 virus has surpassed what would normally happen in 3 to 5 years. It's just really accelerated. Are you seeing something similar in Myanmar?
Absolutely. So an example of that, we see it in two sides. E-commerce for sure has accelerated. Non-travel e-commerce has accelerated. And the other thing is contactless. So our contactless transactions, our penetration has been steadily growing. But through the pandemic, it has almost doubled. Our penetration almost doubled, and it's, again, it goes back to the consumer need and consumer lifestyle. So suddenly the safety, you tap and go, nobody touching, nobody else is handling your card, nobody's handling cash, you're not exchanging anything. It's safer, it's and it's secure, and it's convenient. And so literally just in the past 2 months, it's almost, our penetration is almost doubled. So it is definitely accelerated, I would say. Our digital form factors rapidly.
The silver lining to the COVID cloud, I call it.
Yes, the black cloud that hangs over us.
Yeah, so interesting. When you're launching these products, you've got some great challenges with educating not only cardholders but also the merchants. Are there other challenges in rolling out that infrastructure in a frontier market?
Not particularly, not really. Largely because one of the biggest challenges markets have are legacy systems, and because Myanmar doesn't have legacy, it's rolling out the new technology is not been particularly challenging.
Well, that makes things easier for sure. I wish we had that advantage over here. What about on the regulatory side? What does the regulatory regime in Myanmar look like for financial services?
So the main body is the central bank, and the central bank has been controlling the whole financial services sector quite rapidly here. So they have, as of last year, foreign banks are allowed to have 30% share, in the banks, in the in the Myanmar banks here. So they are pumping in foreign investment, but yes, I would say the regulators have been also a very, very strong proponent. They've been pushing cash displacement very hard. They've also been come up with the government, not just the central bank, but a few of the ministries have also developed a financial inclusion roadmap for the next 4 to 5 years. They plan on the banked population to increase fivefold. That's their goal. That's their objective. So they're very forward thinking.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's nice to have that forward thinking and that support going forward. What does financial inclusion look like? I suppose when you've got such a large population with low penetration of bank accounts, what does it look like today?
It's right now about, as I mentioned, more likely about 15% of the population is banked. Now, I say 15%. We have all sorts of stats, so from 24% to 36%. Everybody has a different statistic, but when we take out the multiple accounts and really look at what percentage of the population is banked, it's probably more the mid-teens. So 15% is probably around 15%. That's not a huge number, but again, as the economy grows and the middle class is growing quite rapidly, and there's more focus in terms of access to financial services, So I think looking at the financial inclusion roadmap for the next 4 to 5 years, it's quite achievable to increase that penetration by about fivefold.
Oh, really? Well, that's a lofty goal, but clearly there's some support to do that and some appetite to do that. And to bring the population into more financial inclusion gives them more opportunities to build credit rating and access different financial services and to start participating in the good global digital economy. So that's exciting.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting. Wow, I'm so jealous, Lillian. That sounds fantastic.
It's been fabulous, and to be physically here and watching it, watching it happen. My own eyes. It's been an incredible experience.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got an audience of women working in the payment industry around the world. Are there things that you want them to know about Myanmar from your firsthand experience?
I would say, oftentimes when I would just say that especially people who work in global organizations, oftentimes when you think of Myanmar, it's sort of, would I invest in that? Would I invest 10 million, 15 million to build this infrastructure. Because it's at, the perception is that it's at its nascent stages. But what I would say is, speaking of leapfrogging or accelerated growth, it completely has the potential to grow as quickly as a Vietnam, for example, or as a Thailand, or even faster, actually. And so I wouldn't look at Myanmar in terms of a reactive way, but more of a proactive way, if you think about investing in Myanmar.
Fantastic. And on the personal side, you've been living there for a year and a bit now. What's it like? How's it different from Singapore or other places in the world?
Very, very different from Singapore, but it is just I have had such a great experience here, and I really have to say that it's largely due to the people and the culture. The people here are exceptionally kind, and they're generous. And in some instances, it almost feels like they're a bit shy. Even they're very, very kind people, and it's such an easy place to live. It's and my team here is mostly Myanmar, and they've been showing me around, showing me all the good places, all the good haunts, all the secret haunts to go to and everything. So it's a very easy place to live, and it's nice because there is domestic travel. So I can go to Bagan, I can go to Mandalay, beautiful parts of Myanmar.
Sorry, you cannot because of the virus, or?
No, I can. So there's a lot of different places. If you want to go trekking, if you want to be by the beach, if you want to, there are different regions in Myanmar. It offers all of that.
Well, after this virus situation, it sounds like a lovely destination. If we can actually get there, get in.
You have a personal tour guide. Yes.
Well, it sounds fascinating. It sounds really, really interesting, and it sounds like a great opportunity for you, Lillian. But for a lot of financial services firms considering a frontier market, I can't imagine, we here in Canada and in other parts of the world have such well-established financial services, and I guess our challenge is getting over our legacy systems, but we're seeing, a lot of accelerated innovation as a result of this COVID virus situation, which isn't a bad thing.
Yes.
What we look like a year from now, nobody really knows at this point.
Yes, the new norm, as they call it.
Yes, still very fuzzy in the future.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's been absolutely delightful to catch up with you, Lillian. Thank you for sharing your time and insights to a really fascinating market.
Oh, it's great. It's great catching up with you as well. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share my experiences here in Myanmar. And when the borders open again, I look forward to welcoming you to Myanmar.
Awesome. I look forward to that, Lillian. Thank you for the invitation. Fantastic. Encourage all of our audience to join us online for this webinar coming up, which will be posted in a couple of weeks, and the others that we're hosting with inspirational leaders and women from around the global payments ecosystem. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Thanks, Lillian.